Chapter 19. Dante awoke to sharp and searing pain. He was suspended with his wrists and ankles bound by crude ropes, dangling precariously from the hideout ceiling. He looked around and saw he was in a hut that seemed to be made with mud, leaves, and branches. He looked at the ceiling and noticed it looked like several trees were placed together unnaturally. Liked they were forcefully uprooted and were leaning on each other to not fall over. Most likely her doing. He tried to move but found himself flailing needlessly. His muscles screamed with a dull ache as the paralyzing poison felt now like a faint memory. His mind, however, was agonizingly clear. Below him, the beast woman knelt by a small, crackling fire with a faint, predatory smile playing on her lips. She held a small, wicked claw, and with a casual, almost bored flick of her wrist, she scraped it across Dante's suspended bare thigh. A deep gash tore in his leg, and a raw, involuntary scream of agony erupted from Dante. He had never experienced pain and agony of this level. He thrashed, a useless, pathetic struggle against his bonds. She watched him, her eyes gleaming, a low, guttural purr rumbling in her chest.
"Ah, there it is,"
she whispered. Her voice sent chills down his spine.
"Such music to my ears, little prince."
Then, with an almost tender gesture, she produced a small, clear vial from her belt and sprayed its contents onto the wound. A cool, tingling sensation spread, and the pain instantly receded, the flesh knitting itself back together with alarming speed. She healed him, only to slash at his chest this time.
"Ah! Fuck you! You crazy bitch! Who the fuck are you?"
Dante screamed through clenched teeth. She chuckled at the prince's outburst.
"Me? You can call me Lily. I'm not going to give you my actual name, though. Silly boy."
Lily said, laughing to herself. She started to slowly walk around Dante, observing him, watching his muscles twitch, his breathing, the sweat, panic pheromones, and his reactions.
"So, why does anyone want to get rid of a cursed prince?"
She mused, more to herself than to him, as she traced over Dante's disgruntled face with long, sharp claws. Dante snatched his face away, and she dug one claw slowly down the center of Dante's chest, causing him to emit another wail of pain. She took in a deep inhale with an overly satisfied look on her face. Her face blushed with a look of pure affection.
"Oh, Prince, I think I love your screams the most. So pure, young, all innocent, sweet,"
she said with a purr in her voice. Dante struggled for breath but it felt constricted and dry. He tried to will himself to not scream again, as his eyes burned with hatred. She grinned as she sprayed more of the liquid on his fresh wounds.
"I didn't know you saw the vial, you know. I heard your little talk with the captain. A perceptive little thing, aren't you?"
Her gaze flickered up to his with a teasing grin.
"No matter. There's no rush to get rid of you, not yet. Something unexpected turned up, you see?"
She continued, her voice soft, yet dangerously.
"Made me accelerate my timetable. Such a powerful presence, hovering on the periphery. Wouldn't want him to get in the way of my mission, now would we?"
He had no clue who she was referring to, but he couldn't shake his frustration about being in this messy situation in the first place. Thoughts of his father raced through his mind, and he couldn't help but wonder if his dad really saw him as such a joke that he'd even consider having him killed. Did he really think he was that much of an embarrassment and disgrace?
"Come now, little prince. Show me more of that innocent side of you."
As she drew nearer, her claw slowly approached his face. Dante's eyes widened in fear, and he struggled even more against his bonds. As the sun began to rise, it casted its rays over the battered camp. Lyra stumbled into the clearing. Her elven outfit was torn and dirty, with blood trickling down her arm, and she trembled from sheer fatigue. But even though she was exhausted, her eyes, brimming with fear and sadness, shone with an urgent message.
"Captain Amidria!"
she shouted, collapsing onto one knee. A couple of soldiers swarmed around her. She was a stranger, but she knew their captain's name. It wasn't long before a soldier came back bringing Captain Amedria with them. She studied the elf and her heart sank. Lyra struggled to hold in a cry, covering her mouth. Captain Amedria knew in her heart what happened, but knew she had to ask anyway to get a clear picture.
Report. What happened to everyone?
Amedria said, her eyes fixed on Lyra's broken form. Lyra looked up and saw Amedria's dominant expression oozed safety, calming Lyra slightly.
They're gone. All of them. Alarin, he's dead. The beast woman. She slaughtered them. She knew we were coming.
Amedria felt a sickening lurch in her stomach. Lyra's words, raw with grief, confirmed Dante's earlier, dismissed accusations. Regret twisted in her gut with a sharp and bitter feeling. She had underestimated him, and underestimated how serious the threat was. She was sure of her strength and thought she could overcome whatever got in her way. At that moment, a silhouette appeared from the peaceful woods. Nicholas walked along the narrow path and spotted the campsite. As soon as he arrived, everyone turned to look at him, and their worries seemed to vanish. Nicholas took a moment to size up the group, counting heads, and a troubled expression crossed his face.
"Captain,"
Nicholas said, his voice calm, assessing the devastated camp.
"where is Prince Dante?"
Amedria quickly summarized Lyra's story, detailing the terrifying fate of the scouts and everything that had unfolded since they left Thesian. Nicholas listened intently, a serious look on his face.
"Just as I suspected,"
he murmured, staring off into the distance.
"I always thought he'd find himself in trouble, but I didn't expect it to happen this fast. I should have come along sooner. That boy's power, it's just asking for disaster. She doesn't realize the kind of danger she's got by her side."
He turned to Amedria, his look determined.
"We need to act fast. Lyra, can you show us where this hideout is?"
Lyra, despite her injuries, nodded grimly.
Yes, Archmage.
The rescue team was now gathered. Amedria, Nicholas, Lyra, Rourke, a handful of royal guards, and Rourke's crew. They rushed forward, driven by a sense of urgency as the morning sun spilled its golden light, stretching shadows across the damp, quiet forest. They found the hideout less than 4 hours later, nestled in a particularly dense thicket. The smell of a campfire hung in the air. As they approached cautiously, a figure appeared from the thicket. It was Lily, her eyes piercing through the shadow she hid inside.
Well,
She purred, her smile wide and chilling.
welcome back, little mouse, and it seems you brought back more visitors. I knew letting you go was a good choice.
She flashed a wicked grin that sent shivers down Lyra's spine. She thought she got away due to her own skill and Alarin's sacrifice. When she remembered her last words with him, she grimaced. She then looked around and only saw bloodstains. Her face twisted in frustration.
Where's my squad's bodies? What did you do to them?
Lyra shouted, her fury overwhelming her, momentarily eclipsing her fearsome presence. Lily tilted her head, her tongue darting out to wet her lips, and began to caress her stomach in a slow, circular motion. Lyra's eyes went wide with horror as she bolted toward Lily, daggers drawn and tears streaming down her cheeks. But before she could get far, Amedria appeared in her path and swiftly struck with the hilt of her sword, landing a blow across Lyra's neck before she even had a chance to react. Lyra crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Without a word, Amedria simply gestured, and a soldier hurried over to lift Lyra's limp body. Lily let out a frustrated sigh, shaking her head at Amedria. She then glanced at Nicholas.
Looks like an old-timer has come along for the ride, too. Nicholas Granfrey.
She briefly glanced at the aging wizard, a hint of real fear flashing in her eyes before she quickly masked it. Nicholas's reputation loomed large, even now that he was past his prime. This shifts everything, she realized. With him involved, I can't afford to dawdle. The mission needs to pick up the pace. Nicholas's eyes blazed in fury.
Release the prince, assassin. This game ends here.
The beast woman simply chuckled, her focus now entirely on Nicholas.
My game has barely begun, old man, and you, in your weakened state, are hardly a threat.
With a sudden terrifying burst of speed, she lunged directly at Nicholas. Just as she was about to close the gap, Captain Amedria and Lieutenant Rourke sprang into action like a coordinated team. They zipped forward, blocking her path. The clash of Amedria's gleaming sword, shining like a silver flash, against Lily's twin-curved daggers rang out, slicing through the peaceful stillness of the forest. Meanwhile, Rourke unleashed his giant battle axe in a sweeping motion, making Lily twist away just in time to dodge the incoming strike. The forest floor erupted in chaos. Every blade swing from Amedria, every axe chop from Rourke, met Lily's brutal strength with explosive force. The ground around them tore, dirt and stone sent flying, tree roots splintering. Shock waves of pure concussive power rippled outwards from their duel, flattening underbrush and causing nearby trees to shudder violently. It seemed like an even fight, a clash of titans. Amedria moved gracefully and swiftly, twirling around Lily as if she were a whirlwind of lethal steel. Meanwhile, Rourke was making his mark as a formidable opponent, unleashing a fierce display of raw power with his axe, each strike reverberating with devastating force. Nicholas watched, his eyes narrowed, sensing the subtle shifts in power. On the surface, it appeared to be a stalemate, a glorious and brutal dance. Nicholas had a different perspective. He sensed it in the atmosphere. Lily's unyielding, vibrant energy was steadily taking over. Amedria and Rourke were battling with all their skill and energy, but Lily was toying with them, saving just enough stamina to slowly exhaust them with her overwhelming power. Their duel was literally reshaping the forest around them, trees splitting, giant rocks shattering under the sheer force of their blows.
Quickly!
Nicholas commanded, his voice urgent, his gaze still fixed on the tremendous struggle.
Let's find the prince, now!
The rest of the royal guards and Rourke's crew, sensing the seriousness in Nicholas's voice, sprang into action. They rushed into the makeshift structure and came across Dante, hanging limp and unconscious. Without wasting a moment, they started chopping at the thick ropes that bound him, their blades slicing through the tough fibers with urgency, racing against time to rescue their prince before Lily unleashed her full, fearsome wrath on them.